Hey everybody, it's me Chris. I'm back in the kitchen. I got a great recipe for you. I'm going to show you how to make a ragu bolognese. So bolognese sauce, typically, it's just a version of a ragu, which is basically an Italian meat sauce. And I'm going to make a variation of it. There are many ways. Everybody literally has their own recipe for this. And you could make it your own as well by adding or subtracting some ingredients. I'm going to do just one version of many today, and let me show you the ingredients we're using. So I got over here a couple different kinds of meat. This is my ground beef and pork that I made at home. I ground it myself. I usually use it for meatballs. So I'm using that, and I have my stew meat. This is half pork, half beef that I cut up myself. And then the recipe for the chopped meat and for the stew meat on how to prepare it, it's on the YouTube channel, Di Giovanna Family Recipes. You can go check it out. I got a canned diced tomatoes, and again, this is an unusual ingredient for a bolognese sauce, and so is the stew meat, but I'm making a different version today. I got some red wine, some tomato paste, some chicken broth, between 1 and 2 cans, depending on how much meat we have. I got some extra virgin olive oil. I got a couple bay leaves, carrots, celery, garlic, and this is a medium onion. Of course, my kosher salt and black pepper. I'm going to start getting to work on browning the meat, and I'll show you how to chop the vegetables. Alright, so the first thing I want to do, I want to start to brown my meat because this is going to take a while. I want to get a really deep, dark caramelization on the stew meat and on the chopped meat. So while I cut my vegetables, I'm going to start to brown it now. And I'm going to keep an eye on it as I go. I'm going to put this flame up to about medium high. I'll move my pot back. And I'm using my heavy Dutch oven. This is really the perfect pot to use if you're going to make a bolognese. Some extra virgin olive oil. I'll be a little generous, couple tablespoons. And then I'm just going to get my stew meat in. And my chopped meat in. And before I season this or do anything else, I'm going to let the pan start to get hot and let the bottom part start to sear and start to cook down. Alright, so while my meat starts to sear and my pot gets really hot, I got to work on my vegetables. I'll show you how to do the onion first. And what I do is I cut off both ends. And then I cut it in half. I peel the outer layer. If the skin gets stuck, just take off the second layer. There we go. And what I want to do here is I want to try to get a really fine dice. So I'm going to go across, not all the way through, once, twice, and I'll try and do a third time. And just got to really watch your fingers. And then what I do is I just go down and through. Let the knife do the work. And just start to cut into a fine dice. When my onions are done, I gotta cut my celery. And I want to try for a fine dice. So I'm going to cut the one end off. And I'm going to cut these into thin as I can get strips like this. Because I want really small pieces that are going to melt away. And just run your knife through. Alright, so before I finish to chop my vegetables, I can see my meat is starting to get well seared on one side. So I'm going to season it generously with some, either use kosher salt or I got some coarse sea salt this time. Fresh cracked black pepper. Be generous. And then I'm going to give it a stir. Before I chop my carrots, I want to give this another stir. And you can see how much moisture has come out. You see all that liquid? We're going to keep cooking this down as we finish chopping our vegetables. We're just going to keep cooking this down on medium high and evaporate all of the liquid. So while that happens, let me show you how I peeled my carrots here. So what I do, I just cut the ends off of the carrots. And if it's misshapen, where you might not be able to get all the skin off, you can just cut it in half. It'll make it easier to peel. And I just peel it right down on my board, so I don't have to worry about it rolling away, just like this, until it's all peeled. And I get pieces like this. And basically what I'm going to do, I want a fine dice here, so I'm just going to cut down the middle. And I'm just going to cut as thin strips as I can to make a fine dice. And in the same way we did the celery, just run your knife as small as you can. Watch your fingers. Alright, so my carrot, celery, and onion are prepped and ready to go. And this is what's called a mirepoix in French cooking. It's the base for a lot of sauces and stews and soups. It's carrot, celery, and onion. I'm going to set that aside and work on my garlic. I got a small head of garlic here. I'll use most of it. So what I'm going to do is just cut the back off. Just watch you don't slip and slide. You need a sharp knife. And I'm going to break apart with my knife the cloves and just give them a smash like that to take them out of the paper, and then I'll clear off the board before I start to chop it. So after I get my garlic peeled, look what I'm doing. I want a really fine mince on the garlic, so I'm going to give it another smash. I smashed it to get it out of the paper. I'm going to press my knife down and just really smash them all like I did here. And then basically, I'm just going to start with my hand on top to chop, 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 and just keep going until I get a really fine mince. Alright, so I kept cleaning off my knife and moving around the garlic and chopping it like this till it's fine. I think it's good enough. I'm just going to put it right in with my vegetables until it's ready to be added to the pot. Alright, so in the time it took me to prep my vegetables, I already cleaned up. I washed my cutting board, and you could just see the whole time I was stirring this meat, the stew meat and the ground beef, and look, all the water is gone, and it's nice and caramelized, and it smells like a Philly cheesesteak in here. It smells absolutely delicious. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to add my veggies, my carrot, celery, onions, and garlic straight in. Okay. I'm going to turn the fire back up to medium-high because I had to lower it. Keep an eye on your temperature when you're making this. You don't want to overdo it. Nice pinch of sea salt. You got to season as you go. When you add a new component, you should season as you go, and that's what makes for great cooking recipes. Layering in the flavor. I'm going to stir this, and I'm going to start cooking it down until the veggies start to get nice and soft. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes. I've been constantly stirring this mixture to make sure that I don't burn my veggies and burn my garlic. And I've been keeping an eye on my temperature to make sure it doesn't get too hot. I could see also when I put in the vegetables that it was a little dry, so I added some more oil, and you guys didn't see that, but I wanted to add some more moisture. And now I'm making some room on one side of the pot here. I'm going to put just a drop of extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to add my entire can of tomato paste. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to get some cook and some what's called a toast on this tomato paste to cook out some of the bitterness that might be in it and some of that tin can flavor before I combine it. So I'm just going to move this around just for a couple minutes. Alright, so my paste is well toasted. I'm going to add it with the rest of the meat and bring this all together. Alright, so this is well combined, the tomato paste with the meat mixture. I turned the heat back up to medium-high. I want to get some nice heat going into the pan again, and I'm going to add my red wine. That's about a cup. And bring it to a boil. I want to evaporate most of the wine before the next step. Alright, so just about 5 minutes. I let the wine evaporate. It's pretty much all gone. And at this point, I'm going to add in my diced tomatoes. Now this is optional. You don't need to add this, but I kind of like it. And I had a bunch of diced tomatoes that I want to use. And before the final step, I'm just going to season again to layer in some more flavor. Some more sea salt, a little bit more pepper. Okay, just a touch. And stir this in. And before I add the chicken broth and the bay leaves for the final cooking period, I just want to get this back to a boil and start the cooking process on these canned tomatoes. Alright, so about 5 minutes after I add my diced tomatoes, you can see it's starting to cook down a little bit. And I already tried this for seasoning. It doesn't really need anything at this point. I'm going to add my bay leaves. I'm just going to break them up a little and put them in there. And I'm going to add my can. I just need 1 can. This is about 2 pounds of meat of chicken broth. I'll bring this back up to a nice steady boil. Okay, so I brought my bolognese back to a nice steady boil after I added the chicken stock. I'm going to give it another stir and scrape up all the stuff on the bottom. And this is the last phase. I'm going to cover it, leave it a little space for the steam to evaporate. I'm going to lower it to medium low, and I'm going to let it cook. We're going to let this cook for at least an hour and a half, okay? It's a long process. It's a labor of love, but really it's the way you're going to get the best result. And the way I'll know it's done, I'll try a piece of that stew meat, and it should just fall apart when I press it with a fork, and it should be done. Okay, so my ragu bolognese is done. I let it simmer, partially covered, for an hour and 10 minutes. I picked out the bay leaves, I covered it, and I left it covered for the last 20 minutes, and this is what it looks like. And you can see it's reduced quite a bit. And it really smells amazing. The chopped meat has become incredibly tender. The diced tomatoes have broken down. And I'm just going to try a tiny bit. I'm going to grab a piece of the stew meat and just show you. And if you can see here, I'm just using a spoon. And I literally, with the spoon, can just cut it. And it falls into pieces. Give this a try. The flavor has become so concentrated. It's incredibly delicious. And you can really, from here, you can go anywhere. You can make an incredible lasagna, put it over pasta, put it on some rice. You can put it on top of mashed potatoes or polenta. There's so many things you can do with a bolognese sauce. It's unbelievable. It freezes really, really well. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of steps. It's not a dish you can do quickly. You got to do it on a Sunday afternoon when you're at home. But it's really worth the work. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Di Giovanna Family Recipes. You can learn how to make this and a whole bunch of other things. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Appreciate it.